So I am speaking with Elizabeth Thompson, the director of This Dewdrop World, which won the Wild Sound Best Film for the June 2014 Film Festival. How's it going, Elizabeth?
No, it's going great, thanks.
Thank you for doing this again. You saw the audience feedback video online from the Toronto audience. What was your reaction to the audience's reaction to your film?
Oh, I was really heartened by it. I mean, it was a particularly good audience, I thought. They picked up on a lot of the nuance, which, for a filmmaker, you put so much, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. You put so much work into these little nuances, and so I was heartened by the fact that they picked up on those nuances, particularly around impermanence and change, which I was really grappling with both in the private story of my mother and this outward story of loss associated with it.
So there's obviously, as you know better than anybody probably, that there's different ways to make a documentary. So I'm very curious how you set out to make this documentary. That you had a loose script in hand and you're going to parallel your mother and the ALS and the environment, or did you kind of just start taping your mother and then it just kind of snowballed? I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, it's actually a good question. The way it started is that at one point, one day, my mother turned to me and she said, I sense a window closing on my ability to speak. Can I speak with you on camera?
Wow.
And I wasn't planning on making a film, and I didn't even have a camera, so I just borrowed, a cheap camera from a friend and started shooting her and shooting with her, I should say. And it came out was really riveting, and I felt like she was being so frank and so gracious about a truly terrifying disease that I just started filming with her. But outwardly, I'd actually left filmmaking for a period because I was so concerned about climate change and wanted to do something more directly about it. So I had taken a job managing the climate group at an environmental consultancy. And so during the day, I was learning more and more about climate change and how serious it really was and how fast things are changing. And then at home, I was grappling with my mother's rapid changes. Some were subtle and some were really dramatic. And I just realized I was grappling with very similar psychological and spiritual and even physical questions throughout my life. So that's how it began to be interwoven.
Oh, okay. So you just started recording your mother and then getting the interview, and then thematically you just kind of moved it into your husband. I guess you use your husband as another main character in his pursuit.
I was, the film really needed narrative thrust.
Yeah.
So here I had my husband. I was filming him for just kind of other reasons. He was running around, in parks, and getting knocked over, and so I was just following him with a camera, not sure what I would do with that footage. And then I realized, he was so influenced by her, and they had a really sweet relationship, and she was really like a mother to him since he lost his mother, and so I saw an opportunity to interweave his forward-moving story with her more contemplative story.
And then it just parallel. Then I guess the third aspect of your film is the kind of analogy of the spaceship and Man on the Moon, kind of saying that if we want to change things, if we actually have a mission statement, we can actually get it done because we've proven it with this kind of the 1960s kind of analogy of we want a man on the moon by the end of the decade, we got a man on the moon by the end of the decade. So if we want to change climate change, we can change climate change.
That's right. We at least need a mission mentality, right? I mean, the thing about the 60s moon launch was, the whole country was riveted by it. It was something that everybody felt a personal investment in. And what would it take for us to rise to the occasion in that way and really have a full mission control focus on doing something about climate change? It really needs to happen on a massive scale of way. So I decided to play with that analogy. Plus, it opened up lots of possibilities for exploring, the small preciousness of the Earth, from those shots from space, and it worked specifically with the film on a lot of levels.
And but it's interesting because there's actually the subtext that you don't really get into the politics of all this madness of the climate change, but basically but there's an interesting allegory of about how you're just use the United States as an analogy. The United States can band together. They've proven that with World War II. They've proven that even with something that I wouldn't say it's somewhat superficial or somewhat I don't know if that's a bad word to describe Man on the Moon, but not a do or die situation, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So but basically they've proven that. So, but there's something holding back of them kind of banding together for this climate change kind of like pursuit, I guess.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to delve into the science and just how urgent it is and how dramatic it is. And I originally back in the early 2000s, I wanted to make a film about climate change and the urgency of climate change, but I felt that it still remained an abstraction in most people's minds, and I wondered how I could render it a more intimate experience, an intimate story, and I didn't know how to do it. And then suddenly, when I was filming with my mother and thinking about, the space footage and, the narrative thrust with my husband's story, I just saw an opportunity to touch on something that I don't think has been explored in a lot of other films on climate change.
Yeah,
it's the more psychological aspects of it,
No, but it's like I said, like you can, it's that balance of with documentaries of like not hammering home like your agenda, I guess. You know what I mean? Like there's a nice delicate balance in this film where you're not giving us a doom kind of like some people thought so, but I didn't think so. Where like you kind of like it wasn't like a doomsday kind of film where it's like there is hope, I guess, right?
Yeah. I mean, and that was the only person I took issue with in the audience was a gentleman who suggested, kind of a nihilistic view of the fact that of impermanence. But when I was really immersed in this and my mother was dying, I just was so in touch with how precious life is.
Yeah.
And it filled me with gratitude. I mean, if you've been through the loss of someone, there's a way in which color looks different and everything seems very precious and fragile, and you want to treat it with utmost care. And I feel that way now about climate change. For a long time, I was really angry about nothing getting done, and a level of denial in the United States is horrendous. But anger only carries you so far. I think love is a better motivator and more uplifting anyway. So I feel like my frame of mind in working for climate change is much more driven towards by the sense of gratitude and preciousness and the fact that yes, things are rapidly changing, but things are always rapidly changing. It's just putting us in touch with something essential about being human.
And it's the same. Oh, I'm sorry.
Live.
Yeah, sorry. Like the same analogy is like about your mother. Like you can get angry, and I'm sure you did, and because it's a common emotion about her dying. But you know what I mean. That's you could either like embrace her life or be angry about her death, I guess, right?
Right. And there were moments where I felt like it was just a drop in the ocean with what I was doing, and I felt that way about climate change too. But I think it's my drop, and so I'm going to make as much of a splash as I can with it. If I've got my one little precious moment here on Earth, and so I'm going to do what I can to make my mark in terms of fighting for climate change. But doing so that's motivated from a different place than just anger and frustration.
And just to go back to your mother, like she was quite the dynamic character in this film. Like she seemed so insightful and very positive. I'm sure there was moments that you didn't shoot where there was moments of frustration on her end, but there was something very mentoring about her. Like she seemed like a great mentor, and then the love between her and your mom and your dad, but her and her husband, like how they couldn't hold hands any longer. That's like I think there wasn't a dry eye in the house after that moment.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, it's funny because you've really hit it on the head because I was feeling a lot of distress and despair around climate change, and here she was going through having to adjust to rapid change constantly to her body. And the scary thing about ALS is that your mind stays totally alert while your body shuts down. I should say it's a neurodegenerative disease, and you slowly lose the ability to use your hands, to walk, to eat, to speak, and finally to breathe. But your mind is totally alert during this. So it's known for how psychologically frightening it is. And so here was my mother who was approaching it with so much sort of gentle strength and grace and gaining insight with each change. And I found that she was a mentor to me in thinking about climate change. And it helped me sort of process what was happening on the outside just by being around her and how she was grappling and the rapid changes in her own body.
It's almost like if climate, like as deep as the way you title your film, like This Dewdrop World, like say the world, the Earth, we can look at it from that kind of like perspective of just a human being and seeing the change. Then maybe people would like see the light a little bit more clearly, because when you're just going about your daily business and you're worrying about all these, like you're worrying about your mortgage, you're worrying about your kids, whatever people worry about, their job, it's hard to really grasp the climate change because it's such a huge thing, right? And they don't see that much change happening to them, so why do they think there's change happening to the world, kind of a thing, right?
Right, exactly. So I was trying to make it very intimate.
Yeah.
Some people can go there and some people can't, but it's just what I felt called to do with film. Yeah,
and but that's the thing. Like, just like, and I think like a month before I was talking to somebody at the festival about like climate change, and it's like when five scientists are in a room and four of them say that the world's in trouble, one of them says the world is fine. Generally, as a human, we go after we like to hear the one who thinks the world is fine because that's a lot safer and easier. It's just a human instinct of ours to like go after the safe kind of route, I guess, right?
I think that's right. Yeah, that's well said. I think that's really true. I think we gravitate towards, excuse me, evidence that confirms our worldview, or what we want to be our worldview. And I think there's just a massive cognitive dissonance going on because, most of us coming up, we expected the world to be a certain way, at least for, the environment to, and the weather to be friendly toward us and grow our crops and give us enough rain and, all the services that we were dependent on, we come to take for granted. And suddenly, if you think about the future, our lives are going to change dramatically. And, that messes with this kind of inner sense of integrity I think we have about, like, this is the way my life is supposed to be. And for Americans, there's this sense of entitlement to the American dream. And that's very, it's almost an axiom of American thought, that we're entitled to, if we try hard enough, we're going to achieve this American dream. So all that is being called into question when you think about the consequence of rapid climate change and kind of adjustments we'll have to make, and the kind of adjustments we need to make and to preempt the worst of it. I mean, the next 50 years are baked in. We can't do anything about that. And that's part of what I was grappling with film is like, what does it mean to adjust to something that you can't change and still come alive within that scenario? But we're called upon to make sure it doesn't get any worse for our children and grandchildren. But we have to act now. And that's why I wanted to bring as much intimacy to this question as I could.
But not to get even like darker, but there's other theories that basically maybe this is a good thing. Maybe us humans are, we're getting what we asked for. We went on top of the food chain. We became parasites. We ruined this world, and maybe we need to go away in a sense. There's also that other aspect, right?
It's a dim view, but I know a lot of people hold that. It's like we've overdone it and become a cancer on the earth, and it's time for us to die out. I don't subscribe to that view. I still think humans are have the potential to really do amazing things, and that's why in the film I had that one shot of the fish switching direction. In complex systems, rapid change can happen very quickly.
Yeah.
And human consciousness is a complex system. It can make up very quickly, and it has to happen on a.
But in history, as you showed in your film, like history has proved that. But it's usually in a do or die situation. Like America stepped up. When the Nazis tried to take over the world, the Americans stepped up and basically they shifted everything. Everything shifted towards the war. Like it's been proven, right? Like just in the last 70 years. So
yeah, that's absolutely right.
Well, it was a terrific film. It was great talking with you. Is there anything you're up to next? Or hopefully you're still making films.
I'm still making films, but I'm working in fiction now, so I'm writing a screenplay.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so that's taking up my energy right now. It's interesting to go from documentary to fiction. In some ways similar, in some ways challenging in other ways. So enjoying it.
And your husband is still in his pursuit of global warming?
No, believe it or not, he went back to cancer research. So he's doing cancer research, but keeping the wind stuff going on the side, and it's looking positive. But for now, to pay our bills, he's doing it.
To pay the bills. That's kind of ironic in a sense, but yeah.
I know. Would love to do that. I know.
Yeah. Well, it was great talking with you. I was very pleased too that you submitted to our festival and we showed your film. It did win best film, and like I said to you, there was not a dry eye in the house after your film played. There was lots of Kleenexes coming out of people's purses and pockets.
I'm sorry to hear that. I don't wish tears on anybody, but I'm glad they were moved.
No, it's profound. It's like it's not a tearjerker. It's just a film that's profound that caused people to cry. So.
Oh, that's lovely.
Well,
thank you. I can't thank you enough for screening the film. It's a great idea, the Wild Sound Festival. So, I've told other friends about it, other filmmaker friends. So you may be hearing from them.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. Keep telling them. I appreciate that.
Okay.
All right.